From headlines to heartbeats, this is More Than News with Kris Moore. Buckle up for a journey beyond the surface, where we uncover the real stories shaping our world.
Hey there, it's Kris Moore with More Than News podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We are thrilled that you give us a listen. We've got a great show for you today. We know we have a new president, and I'm pretty excited about it because I don't know about you who's listening or watching, but my last 4 years have been awful. Now, we do live in the Permian Basin, so we're very close to the border. And as you know, Mr. Trump is going to be closing down the border and using military to deport some people. Now, and you don't know that yet. We are going to find out for sure after, the 20th of January when he's officially in. But with that being said, I have a friend that actually does legal residency and legal citizenship. She's here with me, Hilda Almadarez. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing okay.
Great. I pulled her. She's so busy all the time. It is amazing. I actually sat one day in her office, and she kind of walked me through the process of getting legal residency and then into citizenship. But first, before we get into that, Hilda, I really want you to tell them a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing this, and so forth.
Okay. Hilda Almadarez. I've lived here most of my life, and I've been doing immigration for about 25 years.
And that is a big job. She's kind of icing over the fact. She's paralegal. She works for an attorney here in town. And what I really want you to do is first, just kind of, if you're from whatever country, because you've got folks from all over the place. The file I was talking about was someone trying to bring their child over and what all involved just bringing a kid over. But what all does it take to get legal residency here in the States?
It just depends on the country that you're from. Most of the countries are basically the same applications, but some do ask for more evidence than others. And on the file that you're asking about or that you're talking about, they did ask for more evidence. And so it's taking a little bit longer, but we're getting there.
But real quick, like how long have you been working on that particular case?
On this one, off and on about 3 years. And a lot of them do take 3 years. A lot of them take longer. If you're applying for a brother or a sister, visas are not available. So it usually takes about 20 years for a brother or a sibling to apply for another sibling. And it takes about 20 years for them to become permanent residents.
That's kind of scary if you're listening right now and you're wanting to become an American citizen, American resident. So if you're just beginning the process, you find a immigration lawyer, a paralegal that's going to handle that. If you're here in the Permian Basin, go see Hilda. But can you live in the United States while this is going on? How does that work? Or do you have to wait the full 3, 10, 20 years?
It just depends. If you're a U.S. citizen applying for a spouse and that person is here with a visa, they can apply and stay here in the U.S. and become permanent residents. If you're a permanent resident applying for a spouse, that spouse has to go back to their country and go for an interview in their country.
Regardless of the country, because, you've got folks coming in from India, from Mexico, from Nigeria. You've got so many different nationalities coming across our border right now. And like you said, each country has different rules. Is that right?
Correct. But most of the time, if you're a permanent resident and you're petitioning for a spouse, they have to go back to their consulate or their embassy for an interview to become permanent residents.
Okay. So that you were discussing if it was a spouse, and in this particular case, like I said, it was their child, and they were even asking for making sure that that child was their child. Right. So they were looking for the doctor to send out all the DNA and making sure that it's a big deal. So it's kind of crazy for these last 4 years, you've got all these folks that have been walking across the border. But now, the folks that have walked across the border, can they, since they're already living here, can they get legal residency? And what's that going to take?
Well, you're talking about political asylum. And what they have to do, they have to apply for political asylum. And when they do apply, then they have to wait 150 days so they can apply for a work permit. When they get their work permit, they can work. And then they have to go in front of the judge. They get court hearings. And then they have to state their case, why they have to be here in the U.S., what's happened in their country that they need to be here, they cannot be in their country. And then that's where the judge decides whether there's so much going on in their country that they're allowing them to stay here in the U.S. and become permanent residents. If there's not a lot going on in their country that they're just coming into the U.S. for whatever reason, right, and it's not enough to convince a judge, they will get deported. If not, then the judge will allow them to stay here and become permanent residents.
So that was what I was kind of talking about, is if you're already here, are you going to be able to stay here if you're employed? What about, because I have heard that if someone hires you, the visa, the work visa, and if they start a work visa, that will keep you in the States for how long?
Well, the work visa is for as long as until you go to your court hearing. So if you go in your court hearing and the judge denies your political assignment, your work visa will expire. And that's when you get deported back to your country.
And I know she didn't want to say anything, but that is a very difficult situation because you've got folks that are already over here in the United States, and now they are fearful because they may be working, they may not be working, but they're already over here. And if they cannot get a work visa or get the legal residency, then they will probably be deported. So what are some helpful hints that you can tell the folks that are already here? Then I know it's difficult. I know. She was like, I don't want to talk about this. It's so hard. Because you do have people that are already here and they're panicking. So,
well, I've had cases that I've seen where I've seen pictures of people that are dead on the street, blood everywhere, seen videos of shootings, and that are very real.
Yeah.
And these people are afraid to go back because they've been threatened. And so these are the people that are running away because they can't go back. There are some that maybe are just running away because maybe they don't have good jobs or something has happened in their country that they want to come to the U.S. because they know that they can have a better life for themselves and for their families, and you can't bless them for that. But so those are the people that are probably going to get denied. And of course, you can appeal, but once you appeal and you go back in front of the judge, and if they get denied again, then that's when they have to go back. And just depending on circumstances, I feel for these people. Like I said, I understand them, but it just depends. Like I said, I've seen so many things, and I understand them, but it's not my decision.
It is not. So I have a couple of questions. First off is the folks that are already here, and they are trying to figure out what they're going to do because of deportation, but they're already here. And I know they're giving pressure to you to try to stay here in the United States. But if, like, Kris Moore decided that I wanted to be a legal citizen of
not Canada, because I don't want to live in Canada, but I don't know, Italy, we'll say.
What is the difference there? Because aren't they tougher on the immigration laws than what we are here in the United States?
In other countries,
Yes.
not quite sure. I know that I had some people that come from other countries, and it is tougher for them to become permanent residents here in the U.S. If you wanted to become a permanent resident in another country, I really haven't had. I've only had a couple of cases of people that want dual citizenships or they want to become a citizen from Mexico.
Right.
But
But girl, Barbara Streisand and the cast of The View, they're all wanting to like change the residency. So I get, that's a whole nother story, but I get big laughs over that because you know they're not going to literally do that. They'll go there for their vacation. But the folks that are literally affected by this, because there are so many people that went across the border and they are looking for a better life. And we do have employment shortage. And a lot of these folks can fill this employment shortage. So it is a really good thing. So it's kind of frustrating. And I do live here. But if I was one of them and they were already working, I know that would be so very frustrating for them.
you know, the one thing that I can say, I've seen so many things, and I've had so many cases or so many people that are trying to do it the right way.
Right.
And I had cases where they are doing it the right way, and for whatever reason, maybe they came into the country illegally at one time, and yeah, they made a mistake, and they married somebody, a U.S. citizen or whatever, and then when they tried to become permanent residents, they got barred from the U.S. for 10 years, and so they had to go back to their country and stay in their country for 10 years while the U.S. citizen spouse is here and had to wait. And I've had cases like that. And they've done it. And they've waited the 10 years. And now they've submitted the waiver, the pardon. They're doing it the right way. So these are people that are really trying very hard. And then there are other people that are coming in and they're just walking through and getting everything that they want. Like I said, I am not saying that's to these people. If they're getting what they want, what they need, I mean, okay. But it's not right for the people that are trying to do it the right way. And they're the ones that are suffering, and our kids are suffering for.
I agree.
And the mistake that that person made at one time, they're paying a big price. Waiting 10 years in their country because of one mistake that they made, and they're waiting for a decision from these people just for them to say, okay, we're going to let you now into the U.S. after 10 years. And they get it. That's where I have a problem.
Okay. My big question is these folks that what happens? I always understood. I mean, there's always that running joke. Well, you can marry an illegal and they can live with you forever. So that's not true. If I married a person that was trying to come over here legally and I am an American citizen, that won't save them from being deported?
You mean somebody came in legally into the U.S. or illegally?
Illegally.
No. If the person comes into the country illegally, yeah, you can marry them, but they can
still be deported.
Exactly. They cannot become permanent residents while they're here in the U.S.
Just because an American citizen. So these are very important facts that I don't think the government is telling you. And so if you're listening right now, you have a friend or a relative or whatever trying to come over here, you need to know the legal way, because right now there's going to be a absolute flood of folks because they had not officially released how many illegals have crossed the border. 10,000, 20,000, 30 million.
I mean, there are so many that have crossed. And I know you'll never be able to track them all down, but the ones that you do, some of them really should be able to stay here. So I'm going to circle back to, if you're one of those people, you try to find a attorney, a paralegal, that takes care of immigration. What's your first step?
First step, come into the office and talk with us and see if there's a way that you can become a permanent resident. And if not, you have to do it the right way. Go back to your country, try to come in the right way and do it the right way, like everybody else is doing it. Try to come in with a visa. That's really the only way that you can do it, and it'll be easy. When you try to do it the wrong way, you get a visa. Exactly. It's very difficult. It's very difficult when you come into the country illegally and you try to become a permanent resident. It's very difficult. And it's very expensive, too.
What about language barriers? I mean, I speak only American. I'm terrible. I wish I could. You are fluent in Spanish and English, but there are so many different nationalities. How do you handle that?
Well, and most of the people that I do get, they speak Spanish. I do have a hard time sometimes with some of the people because they either speak so fast and they do have an accent. I know I have one, but some people do have more of an accent than I do. So we get by.
Manage to get by.
We manage.
Like I told you, I've seen Hilda stay at her office until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, working on so many of these folks that she's trying her best to get into the States legally. And I don't know, do you think it should be easier to get into the United States, or are you happy with the process? Yeah, putting you on the spot. Sorry, Earl.
Maybe not easier. I think that maybe make it more visas available for like brothers that are siblings applying for other siblings.
I agree.
20 years is
If it's family members, it should not take that long. Yeah. Who knows what Donald Trump's going to do in his regime? I think he's going to be more fair, but that's a really big question. That's a really big question. And I always go back to that same story when I went over to your office and you were working at the two parents trying to move their child over and how hard that was. I don't think it should be that hard. The father and the mother, I mean, I don't have an answer for this. I don't know the legal system, and I know how hard you work, but there's got to be an easier way.
Can I tell you the latest one?
Oh, I can't wait. Yes, please. So I will worry about whoever this person is, too. I'm so worried about that little boy. I'm just like, I'll adopt him. Let's bring him over.
I've got an elderly couple, and they've been married for 14 years. And yeah. She's a U.S. citizen, but she's going blind, and she's diabetic. She can barely walk, and he's been in the country illegally, of course, but he's been doing odd jobs here and there.
So he has a work visa?
No.
He does not.
He's been here.
How has he not gotten deported?
Lucky.
Okay.
So we kept working illegally. Odd jobs, right there.
A lot of that around here.
And his wife is on Social Security. She has not received any help from government assistance, even though she's a U.S. citizen, born here in the U.S. And her income is very, very minimal. So now she was to petition for him because he says, I need a job. I need a full-time job. I need to support my wife. Their house is paid for, but he still needs to make an income.
Of course, we all do.
Right. And he said that the money that he makes is not enough. Well, come to find out, because he came into the country illegally and he overstayed, he needs to submit both waivers.
What is a waiver?
The waiver is a pardon because he came into the country illegally. There are one waiver. The other waiver is for overstaying. So when you come into the country and you overstay more than 6 months, then you get barred from the U.S. So being that he overstayed, he has to submit another waiver.
But there's so many people that have overstayed. Why do they punish ones that have literally tried to go through the system? I don't understand this. This is very frustrating for me.
Well, because for one thing, he did. He broke the law by coming into the country illegally and because he overstayed.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for 14 years. Okay, so now we've got to submit the waivers, and he's got to wait for a response. If he gets denied, he could spend 10 years in his country because he's got to get barred for 10 years. And he said, well,
Do you think that's fair, Hilda? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot again. I don't think that's fair.
in this case, of course, I don't think it's fair because his wife is blind and she's diabetic. She needs him here.
Yes.
She needs him here to work and to support her, to take care of her.
Yes.
Of course, I don't think it's fair, but is life fair sometimes?
How hard is this job for you?
Very hard.
She told me before we went on the air, she's like, I do not want to talk about political asylum because right now there are so many that are bombarding her and they are feeling like they are entitled, since they crossed the border illegal, to be political asylum. And do you have security guards? Had you thought about it?
No, I don't even.
No, I know you don't. But, I mean, there are so many. Like I said, there's like 30 million illegals that have crossed our borders thinking that they were going to get a Kamala Harris T-shirt and a $3,500 debit card and a cell phone, an Obama's cell phone, and they were going to live happily ever after. And that has been a real thorn in a lot of people because there are so many people here in the United States that need that, whether it's mentally ill, whether it's veterans, whether it's elderly. So many need help, but the Biden administration has been throwing all this money for all these illegals. I think that would be so difficult. I don't want to be in your shoes.
Sometimes I don't.
You're the most honest woman I know. I am not calm. Anybody that knows me, I am not calm. I can be calm for a moment. But if I was dealing with that, how do you shuffle it?
I don't know, but most of the time it's a good day.
I know.
Most of the time.
It's always a good day to be Hilda. And she really does care for her folks.
And I think this.
And the folks that are trying to get here, hopefully you find somebody like Hilda that will really work your case, but no, it's such a process. And the cost can be varying from where you're at. So how do you find somebody? So I'm living in Florida. Obviously, they're not going to get a hold of Hilda, but they might. And they're looking for somebody that's going to legally try to get them over here. What do you suggest?
Oh, I had people from California.
Yeah.
I had people from Houston. I have people from out of town that have done paperwork. We can do it by email. I've had clients from other states. We can do it.
Well, you know what? Again, I have gone to Hilda's office at night trying to find her and she is knee deep in a pile of papers. The first one that I talked to you about the child, whenever she showed it to me, and they were looking for DNA proof that this child, they are straight up serious to make sure. Who's going to try to sneak in an 8-year-old boy? I know there's all kinds of conspiracy theories, but on a whole, this is their parents, and they're trying to get him in, and she works those hours, so I get how frustrated you are. I love that about you.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to find somebody that's your immigration person, like Hilda. If you are trying to get here legally, and if you're listening right now or watching right now, it's about to really change. So if you're listening, you need to find an immigration attorney because they're going to start deporting. And if you're serious about staying here, you need to make sure that you're here legally. Hilda's giving you all kinds of hints on how you can do that, whether it's a work permit, not necessarily get married to somebody, but there's other options. But find you an immigration attorney that is going to take care of that for you. And I know it's confusing and there's language barriers. There's so much going on. But Hilda, okay, if you're here at the Permian Basin, and even if you're not, she's so overloaded right now. But I know Hilda, she will answer your question and guide you in the right direction. So Hilda, how would they get a hold of you?
You can call me at 432-247-5599.
Okay, so any closing comments on if you're talking to somebody that's listening right now and wants to be a legal citizen? One last, this is my advice. What you got?
My advice is come into the country legally and everything will be so much easier for you.
I love that. And I love you. Hilda is a wonderful woman. So get a hold of her. Again, all the information is going to be down on the comments, and I'll make sure it's on our caption. So wherever you're listening, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, please subscribe and listen. I'm always going to have fun interviews and very important interviews, because this one with Hilda is very important because this is going to change in the next month, and you need to be aware. So, Hilda, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kris.
For being here. You are a beauty, and I love you. Thank you for what you do, because she works hard. You do too. Thank you. We both do. Okay, again, this is Kris Moore with More Than News. Please subscribe to whatever podcast you're listening to, and we appreciate you. Got an exciting show coming up next, so keep listening.
You've been listening to More Than News with Kris Moore. Join us next time as we continue to dig deeper, ask tougher questions, and bring you the insights that truly matter.